We weighed the calves there a couple of weeks ago for the skip. So it showed the 200-day weight on the bulls at 297 kilos and the heifers at 273. The bulls would have done an average weight gain of 1.27 and the heifers 1.16. That's what my report is showing me anyway. I was a bit concerned before I started weighing them. I visually thought they were back on last year's calves. Their coats were dull looking and I just didn't think they had the same shine off them. But I was pleasantly surprised. They are back a little bit on last year's weights, but I was pleasantly surprised.
Hello and welcome to The Beef Edge, the Teagasc beef podcast, for all your latest news, information and advice for Irish beef farmers. I'm Keaveney, and on this week's episode, I'm joined by future beef farmer Shane Keaveney from County Roscommon to discuss his farm system, current management on the farm and his upcoming National Beef Open Day on Tuesday the 11th of September. Shane, before we start, can you give an overview of your system?
We run a suckler to beef enterprise here on the farm. We're farming 35, 36 hectares, calving down around 36, 37 cows, and the males, bulls, goes into a bull beef system. Heifers are sold in around 19 months as sort of store type cattle. And the last 2 years then we've sort of dipped our toe in the water with dairy calf to beef as well. So that's basically what we're up to.
And what age are you finishing the bulls at?
Bulls they're in an under 16-month system. So over the last number of years, we've been trying to get that finishing age back a bit. So I think this year we're down at around 15 and a half months. So we're pulling it back a week or two every year. So that's basically it. Some of them now, we got them away earlier. We got them away at under 15 months this year. So we're on the right track.
And what weight did they come into, Shane?
Of the whole group of bulls this year, their average weight was 390 kilos. So we're happy enough with that. They're graded mostly U minuses, a couple R pluses, but mostly U minus. And the fat score was okay. They were more or less over the 2 plus. Most of them were into the 3.
That's great. And this year's calves, how are they performing and how will you go about weaning them?
We weighed the calves there a couple of weeks ago for the skip. I got my weaning efficiency report of ICBF there. So it showed the 200-day weight on the bulls at 297 kilos and the heifers at 273. The bulls would have done an average weight gain of 1.27 and the heifers 1.16. That's what my report is showing me anyway. I was a bit concerned before I started weighing them. I visually thought they were back on last year's calves. Their coats were dull looking and I just didn't think they had the same shine off them. But I was pleasantly surprised. They are back a little bit on last year's weights, but I was pleasantly surprised. And
is there anything you plan on doing to change this year for the bulls that you do different compared to what you did last year? What's your plan with them?
Pretty much the same treatment they're getting, Catherine. Like for me, a stress-free weanling is when I'm weaning them off the cows. That's a major help. So for the last 2 years, we've used nose pads on the calves before we wean them. So the nose pads go on the calves maybe a week before we'd separate them from the cows. And as well as that, maybe 2 weeks before that or 3 weeks before that, we'd have lifted the wires there around the paddocks to let them forward graze and to allow to creep them with a bit of meal as well to get them used to meal. So the last 2 years with using the nose pads, as I said, they go on about a week before we separate the cows. We bring them all back into the yard again and separate the cows and calves, remove the nose pads from the calves and let them out to the field. And I bring in the cows then into the shed for the guts of a week to dry them off. Which I do give them hay or something just to dry them up, and they go off out again to a separate area. And as I said, the last 2 years, it's been very stress-free. There's been no balling, no nothing. Calves never seem to take a hit on weight. You know, like usually years ago when I was at it, I'd bring the cows in, I'd bring the calves in, the 2 different sheds, separate them out. And, you know, the calves would go back a good bit. And as well as that, I've had no hassle with viruses or colds or anything like that with the calves as well. Now, they do be vaccinated before they're weaned as well, you know.
And when do you implement the vaccination programme?
They got their first shot the day they were weighed for the skip. So, and then they'll get their second shot in when I fit the nose pad. So they have got a good bit of protection from the first shot anyway, like, you know.
That's great. And then talk through maybe How are them bulls going to be managed from now until they're housed?
After they're separated from the cows, I do leave the whole bunch together maybe for a week or so, just to let them settle down on their own, and then I'll separate the heifers and the bulls up. The bulls will probably be up to about 3 kilos a meal, and I'll probably leave the heifers at 1 or 2 kilos a meal, and they're just on good grass. They'll be keep them going on good grass and meal. And if the weather turns a bit like it did last October, I'll just bring them straight in, because they don't like that unsettled type weather and wet weather. They become unsettled, so I just bring them straight in. Last year, I housed them in the middle of October, and I brought them straight in. And by the end of October, we had them up on 5 kilos a meal, and they were on my red clover silage then. So they took no check at all on weight. They kept the trove all the way through.
That's great, Shane. And you mentioned there the red clover silage. Last year was your first year to sow red clover. How have you found it?
I'm really happy with the performance of the cattle off it. I fed it to weanlings last year. Now I only had enough red clover to do me until the new year, just till after Christmas. So I have more sown this year, and I'll have hopefully be able to bring me through most of the winter this year. But for the period they were on red clover, like particularly the bulls, they were on 5 kilos a meal with Adlib red clover silage. And at one stage there in December, on one of the ways we done, they were doing almost 1.5 kilos a day on it. And I had some of the dairy calves on it as well, with 1 kilo of meal, and they were doing close on a kilo as well. So the weight gains were excellent on it.
That's excellent. And the management for this year, how have you managed the red clover crop and with fertiliser, and what has it yielded to date?
Well, fertilizer is very simple. It's just all slurry that's applied with the less system, with the dribble bar, and the yields you're looking sort of with each crop you take off the slightly different yield, but you're probably looking at a yield around 5 bales the acre over your three cuts. And as I said, the only management we've had to it is slurry. That's it.
That's great, Shane. And how are you managing grass on the farm at the moment?
Look, I'm all right. They're not cutting fields up yet, but the rain would want to stop. We're okay for grass. Our last week's grass measure, with our average farm cover was between 800 and 900, and our growth has back a bit, but it's still just about ahead of demand. So I could do with growth rates to pick up a bit, just to build farm cover coming into the autumn. But at the moment, we're just sneaking by there. We're okay.
And what do you plan to do in the coming weeks to help build the covers on the farm?
I have 20 acres of second cut silage that should be coming back in again. So I'm earmarking that for the cows once they're dried off and weaned off the calves. So that'll be for them. And I started selling some of my last year's heifers there as well. So over the next couple of weeks they'll be nearly all gone as well. So that'll be reducing demand further.
And how are you fixed overall for feed this winter, and what's your plan with silage and straw for the farm?
Straw, I've got this. I purchased whatever straw I've needed. Silage wise, I'm thereabouts, but I've the option of purchasing more bales off a neighbour of mine, just as an insurance policy, really. So I'll probably take them up on that offer just to have them there.
That's great, Shane. And you're hosting the National Beef Walk on September the 11th at 6 p.m. What can listeners expect to see on the day?
There'll be a few stands there, so we'll have a look at the red clover. It'll more than likely be cut for the third time at that stage. Hopefully it will anyway, and just have a look, see at where I'd sowed it, and have a bit of a chat about that. The cows and calves will be there. Calves will probably have their nose pads in at that stage, so they'll probably be separated a couple of days after the walk from the cows. So they'll be sort of halfway through their weaning period there, so they'll all be there to see. And then I'm in the island catchment area here as well, so there'll be someone from the ASAP service in Castlereagh out to Kieran Kinney, be out to have a chat about the catchment area here, and basically water quality and how we can improve it, And as well as that, I think Brendan Egan from Castlereagh Mart and Anthony O'Dowd from Dawn Meats will be there as well to chat about the market going forward and what it's looking like.
Thanks, Shane. That sounds like a very informative evening, and we look forward to seeing you and the farm walk on Wednesday, the 11th of September at 6 p.m. I'll include further details in the podcast text.
Thanks a million, Catherine. Take care.
That's all for this week's episode, and my thanks to Shane for joining me on the show. You can catch up on all other shows and interviews from the Beef Edge podcast on the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie, or you can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe so you never miss a show. For all other updates from our beef programme, keep an eye on our Twitter and Facebook pages. Until next time, I'm Keaveney, and thanks for listening.